that flew on it, so.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. I decided to look at how people got to the West Coast from Chicago via train, obviously, because we're the Railway Historical Society, but also look at air versus bus and the car. Locomotives?
Yep, there we go. We got it, Ross.
Oh, yeah, that's,
We're all set.
Okay, I gotta go get back down. Jump back. Sorry, it jumped back to the first slide.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes
PowerPoint can be a little finicky at times. So a couple of extra topics I was
Yeah.
as I was looking through pictures, I was looking at how they changed power on the westbound Empire Builder. And this was back in 1965. They would bring the train in. As you see, it had just arrived, all the people getting off and everything. But they had a 4-unit set of F7s came from the roundhouse down there, because Havre had the big yard, and they had a roundhouse, full roundhouse, a big diesel shop they built after the war, and then they've added to it, and so it's still a big maintenance base. But they would take the power off the train here, pull it way down, and then they would take this fresh set of units off the passing track and pull it onto the main, and then put it back on here. And as I was thinking about that, I realized this is why steam disappeared so fast. I had one of my studies a few years ago was why did steam locomotives disappear so fast? Because I was reading a book that was written in 1939, and the author said, it was Lucius Beebe actually. He said, yeah, he thought by the end of the century there'd be a good number of diesels, and that was 39. So what the railroads couldn't believe how efficient and effective the steam locomotives are. If you think about it, originally steam locomotives that go a few hundred miles, and they had to take them to the house. They'd clean the flues and empty the ash pan and lubricate them and everything. Even by the time the Great Northern had the S2 484 Northerns on this train, they'd still only go 500, 600, 700 miles or something. But you think about this set of diesels here is going to go from here all the way to Seattle. They're just going to put it on the other end they're going to turn the train and run it all the way back to St. Paul. And then they're going to turn the train and run it all the way back here again before they take it to the house for light maintenance. And it was kind of a remarkable thing to me that here the diesel is running 4,000 miles between light maintenance, and why you can see why the steam locomotives just disappeared. Plus the diesels, of course, these diesels are about, well, probably 27% thermal efficiency, and the steam locomotives were 6%. So that's why the steam locomotive had to have a great big tender behind it, and the diesel engine just has this little tank of fuel, because they're much more efficient. Burning fuel in a closed combustion chamber like that, you're going to get much more efficiency than you do at low pressure in a big steam locomotive. Plus the maintenance was 1/10 of what they needed on a steam locomotive, and also they didn't need to have water everywhere. But anyway, I thought this was interesting, and then of course Amtrak came in, and then when I was out there in '75, I saw, gee, they're doing exactly the same thing. Here are the brand new SDP-40Fs. And they had, here he is waiting for Amtrak to come in, the westbound, and he's sitting on the passing track. So he's sitting there waiting. And then these two guys come walking by, and they're going to disconnect the locomotives from the train and all the plumbing and everything, and then they'll put the fresh set on. So here comes Amtrak in, and with a couple of SDP 40s, SDP 40Fs, and this is the power that was on the train. This is the power. You can see they got the steam generator fired up. And the power from the train is going to go back down the passing track, and here's the fresh power that's going to go back onto the units, and then they connect it up. And then when the train leaves, here he's leaving Havre. He's got the new power on it. But while we're talking about the SDP-40F, it had quite a history. This is the SD-40-2. Amtrak came out with the 645 cubic inch per cylinder engine in the 60s. And they came out with the SD-40 and the SD-45. The SD-40 sold, 800 units. It was doing okay. The plain SD-40. And the SD-45, that sold like 1,300 units. That was a fabulous unit. That was everybody really liked them. They also, the diesel engine itself powers most of the large 1,000-foot lake boats on the Great Lakes. It's the standby power. It's 20 cylinders, 645 cubic inches per cylinder. It's most of the standby power at all the nuclear plants in the United States and many other places. It's extremely reliable engine and very very good. But anyway, so they had the SD-40. Well, then in the early 70s, General Motors came out with the idea of replacing all the relays and all these cabinets, the electrical cabinet back here, with this modular plug-in electrical transistorized controls. And they also added wheel slip and did some other things. And they built a longer frame, so they have these porches on both ends. And so this is the SD-40-2. And you see here's a Burlington Northern SD-40-2. Well, they approached Amtrak and said, "See, we got this great engine. It's very reliable. Why don't you guys use this for your long distance power?" And Amtrak said, "Gee, that sounds good." And so they put a cowl on it, but immediately, of course, they have to go and mess with it, and they put what they call a HTC hollow bolster truck. Now, when I hear hollow bolster truck, I get nervous. I kind of go, "Oh boy, this doesn't sound good." And so what happened?
Here comes the committee.
Question?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just joking. Everything is cool until the committee is done.
that was Ed with a comment.
What? Do you have a question?
No, he had just had a comment. He said, that's what happens when you get a committee showing up.
Yeah,
That was
exactly.
Ed's comment.
Exactly. That was exactly it. Designed by committee. And so anyway, they have this engine, runs great, right? No problems. And what happens? You have this hollow bolster truck, and then you put a great big steam boiler back here and a water tank. Now, what's going to happen? Well, to me, they couldn't really figure out. Okay, so then in 1976, in Ralston, Nebraska, Amtrak number 6, the eastbound San Francisco Chief, is coming in at a turn 53 miles an hour. It's just a 2-degree turn, very slight turn on the track, right? And but this axle right here climbed the rail, and so to me, you look at it and you say, okay, we got the SD-40 that's running great. Now we put a great big boiler back here that's going to load this axle and unload this axle, right? So what's going to happen when it hits a curve? This one doesn't have as much weight as this one does. It's going to walk, and so it climbed the rail. Okay, so then and the crews also had been complaining about these things yawing. when they went down the track. They would kind of go back and forth, whereas the regular SD40 didn't do that. So that says something right there. And these are running at a higher speed anyway. So so immediately BN said, well, we don't want to run these things on the railroad. And so then they put a 40-mile speed restriction on it and everything, and the FRA started putting restrictions on them. Well, then sure enough, a month later, in Alabama, the lead on the Louisville and Nashville, another one climbed the rail. Now that was at 42 miles an hour on a little bit sharper curve, but doesn't matter. Same thing exact happened. This axle climbed the rail, laid the train on the side. In the first one, about 2/3 of the passengers were injured out of 178 passengers and 19 crew, but nobody seriously, which is a statement in itself. If you think about having a train go off the track at 53 miles an hour and you only have minor injuries, that's not too bad. But same thing happened in Alabama. The train laid over on its side, and they and of course then they put all sorts of restrictions on it. And so fortunately, Amtrak had ordered this is the F40. It's basically a GP40, 4 axles, 3,000 horsepower. And they'd ordered like 30 or 40 of these things to run the train, like the San Diegan, the Milwaukee train. They ran them from Boston to New Haven on the Northeast Corridor. And so they had a bunch of these things. And that was fortunate they did that, because and here you see them testing them. This is at Minneapolis. They're testing them. But these things, basically they had 150 of them. And they sent 132 of them back to General Motors, and they basically took the guts out of them, all the controls, the modular controls, the diesel, the generator, everything, the motors, everything came off them, and they put them in these units, and so they ended up with a bunch of these things, and that really saved Amtrak, because they ran these things until the early 90s, till they got the General Electric units. Now, interestingly, here we see later on they're running an F40, and then they had the SDP40F. But you see it's turned around. So this lightly loaded axle, which is axle number 4 here, that's not on a curve. That's not going to do a bad thing. That's not going to be bad, because it's lightly loaded, but it's in a trailing position. So anyway, so this F40, that became the godsend, and they ordered a couple. I think they ended up with about 250 of them, and that ran everything on Amtrak for until the early 90s, and some of them had 4-5-6 million miles on them. I mean, it was pretty.
Yeah. Some of it had no boilers, but heater gun.
They initially didn't have boilers, so they had to use heater cars.
That's correct.
That
These had generators in the back. So yeah, that's right. Because they were getting the new Amfleet cars, which were electric. But yeah, for the old Heritage equipment, they had to have heater cars. That's correct. But they were a good unit, and they ran and ran and ran. And a lot of them are still running. And then they started getting the General Electrics in the early 90s. Now this is the it's a P32 PWH or something. But anyway, this is the unit. If you remember in the Red Wing, we saw one of these things. They had like 20 of them. And this is how they originally arrived. Now they're, of course, in the Amtrak paint scheme. But this is one of these things was on each end of the Borealis when we were down there. And then, of course, then they, in the early 90s, they got the P40 and the P42s. And those have been extremely good units. Now they're starting to replace those with the Siemens Charger. So this is how they
still run them. Still run them on the builder.
Yeah, they do. So that's the end of the presentation. Now, Rich, do you have something, or I have some slides I can look at? What would you like to do?
Hey, thank you, Ross.
Oh,
Excellent
okay.
program.
He just asked you a question.
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
He's got more things to show.
Oh, yes, go ahead, Ross. You can show some more.
Okay, all right.
Plenty of time.
let me get set up here and I'll pull up some slides.
Okay.
Do you have the file that I sent to Dan, Rich, by any chance?
No, he didn't give me that.
Okay, because I sent him a file of slides. So anyway, I've got a bunch of pictures I can put up.
Question,
I'm sorry.
Greyhound still,
Oh, question, Ross. Does Greyhound still exist today?
As far as I know,
Greyhound
yes,
bus.
yes, they do.
They do.
There's a number of other companies, as you've probably seen, these express buses and stuff like that that are coming in. They don't actually stop at the station, but they just stop at there's a street corner someplace and they pick up a bunch of people and head down. So, but yeah, buses are still going. So, all right, let me get up some slides up here, and let's see, where am I here? Okay.
1976, when everybody started pouring into diesel control, operation control center, and the ninth floor, and St. Paul. Can't remember who the top dog was at the beginning.
Okay, these are just some random pictures that that I've got that we can take a look at. This is in in Havre in 1965, and it's a international car caboose. This is before in the mid 60s they were just building the regular cabooses. Then later on they came up with the extended vision.
Everything looks good, Ross.
Okay, you see everything. Okay. Back then, the Great Northern was painting their hoppers bright red, and of course they would get black. But so, got another picture. This is a now. Where's Russ? We need is that a Nash?
I think so.
car, yeah,
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, Russ would tell us what car it is. Anyway, this is
Yeah.
Sunday afternoon, Havre.
Or a Nash.
Okay. And the guy in the yard told me that this was a caboose hop. They were heading east out of Havre, and they would drop off one of these engines at each of the branch lines. See, this is one of the reasons that the Great Northern one never went bankrupt. As he built west, Jim Hill would build branch lines every 30, 40 miles north of the track or south of the track. And so he was making money all the way across Nebraska, excuse me, North Dakota and Montana. And so then they would set out one of these things and they would go up and pick up all the grain cars, bring them back, and then they would assemble a big train going across.
I don't reckon. And what, like it might be like a 55 and.
Comment?
This Havre?
Yeah, that's Havre. 1965. Here's the roundhouse back here. There's the water tank, and then this is the diesel shop they built in the 50s. And so they do light maintenance here, and they can do heavier maintenance in this part. Then the Burlington Northern added more stalls, so it's still a big diesel shop. This is an NW2, which was from before the war.
Running their two units all the way through to Chicago to Havre.
It's real.
60 to 1963 or something. They give us some courtesy, please. Before 60, I just didn't read.
Okay, go ahead, Russ.
Okay.
Just some commentary going on here.
Okay. If you have a question, let me know. Anyway, there's a new GP35 and there's some F units. And this is back right in front of the roundhouse. This is a GP35 and a GP7 coming in eastbound from and kind of a futuristic view there. They were still hauling oil out of the Tioga field and the Stanley oil field, because they hadn't built pipelines then, so they were hauling oil tanks. And of course now they're still hauling oil tanks out of that field, but now they're a lot bigger tanks. So the guys asked me if I wanted to ride, so I'd ride around in the switch engine with them. This is out at the the west end of Havre. You see the two main lines over there, and then the yard lead goes out. They have a long yard lead, and then it goes onto the
It
main.
goes on the Milk River.
The Milk River, that's correct. This is a picture going eastbound in Montana, and we're passing the westbound builder. Just coming in Minneapolis back then. This is obviously Sleepy Eye, Minnesota in 65.
Oh, Ford, look at Rob.
Where's
Yeah.
Gary? Where's
57.
And a couple of RSD 5s on this